Hello and welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 running backs in this draft class, and this is a very, very good running back class. There are some running backs that I haven't watched, so like if your favorite running back isn't what I'm talking about, I might mention them also in my sleeper, my offense sleeper video that's coming out, probably next week. But there are so many running backs in this draft class that I can only limit the top 10 now, and then like the couple I'll be talking about in my sleeper pick. So, like I said, if you have a favorite running back that you want me to get my thoughts on, I might not have watched them, but I can try to give like some of my opinion on like what I've seen or what I've heard from other people. But let's start off with this a top 10. So obviously started from 4, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, how I kind of rank those. And I'll put them up on the board right now. Bam. So if you didn't watch the quarterback video where I talked about how I do my tiers, this is kind of where I'm thinking like people are going to be drafted or where I would draft them in the scenario of just like, need is not really there. It's just like around where they are on the draft board. So starting off in tier 3 at 10 is going to be Jarquez Hunter. Now, obviously you can see I'm an Auburn fan. Like through and through, grew up an Auburn fan, went to Auburn, about to graduate from Auburn as well. Thank the Lord. And Jarquez Hunter is so good. Not only is he a class act, like I said, always see him all around campus. Really nice dude, but he is also a really, really good, intelligent runner. He has really good vision. He has really good pad level and also really good contact balance. Does he have the breakaway speed that like other running backs in the draft class have? No. I don't think he was really used as far as like showing his receiving ability, which I do think that he does have. It's just not to the level of what has been shown. And to be honest, like I'm probably going to mention Jarquez on my sleepers because I think a lot of people are looking down on him. Where I think he should be a third-round pick. Like I said, I think a late third-round pick. But I think because his running back class is so good, he's going to be pushed into the 4th round. If I'm being honest, he's probably going to have a similar role to what a Ray Davis did last year. I liked Ray Davis as well last year. But I think that, because his running back class is so good, he's going to start falling down. But he's my 10th running back. Just something to kind of like look at is I think his fits are obviously in Panthers. I mean, I would love for us to draft him, not only because I think he's a really good running back, but also he has really good kickoff capabilities. He was a kickoff returner when Tank Bigsby was here, and when Tank Bigsby left, he still stays a kick returner as well as a starting running back. I think the Rams could also use him as well. I mean, like getting a third running back behind Kyron Williams, and also trying to think of the guy from Michigan 2 years ago. But I think getting another good running back, like I said, really good vision, really good contact balance that could really fit in there. And also the Commanders. I mean, the Commanders, you got Austin Eckler's getting up there in age. Don't know. I'm pretty sure they're probably going to try to re-sign Robinson. They like Robinson there, depending on how much it's going to cost. But getting another running back that's going to be kind of like in that same exact form, a little bit smaller, but just like a good, strong runner later on in the draft, I think that'll be a good fit for the Commanders, who also, I think he has some receiving ability. Has he shown it as much? No, but I think he does have decent hands. Another thing to note is if you want to watch some of the good games, watch Kentucky, where I was at that game. He ran for over 270 yards, like legitimately carried that whole entire game. And then the Texas A&M game as well. Texas A&M, absolutely amazing game. But there were times, especially sometimes like how the offense was going, where either he wasn't getting the ball like he should have, or quarterback play was just not there, so they were stacking the boxes, and it showed. Bama game was not a good game for him. Obviously, also the weird interception. For some reason, they had him throw the ball. I'm still ticked off about that. But that was a bad game. And also Missouri. Missouri was a really bad game as well. Just really couldn't get anything going on the ground. So like I said, like there are some good, there is some bad. This might be more of me just being like, I've seen him for over 4 years. I know how good he is. So I want him to be good in the NFL. But I think he has a really good shot to be good in that kind of role, like a Ray Davis, like a number 2 running back. And I hope that, like I said, hope he does really well. Moving on to number 9, this is going to be Brashard Smith from SMU. He's more of like a third down kind of running back. Like I said, more of a receiving option. He was a former receiver, was at Miami last year, then transfers to Southern Miss, becomes a running back. Um, like I said, he could be a good change of pace third down running back for like a Bears if they decide not to take a running back in the first round. If they want to stick with um, Swift, and they can get like another like compliment because they got Swift, they got Quinshon Johnson. They don't really have like a third down running back. Like I said, you get Brashard Smith in that case. I think another one too is Texans. Like I said, you got Joe Milton, Joe Mixon, not Joe Milton. You got Joe Mixon. You don't really have that pass catching back. Like I said, he would be a good fit. And also like the Broncos. Like I said, the Broncos. You got Audrey Estime. I mean, I like McLaughlin as well. There's a chance they probably go running back early, but also getting a third down back, a little bit weapon that Sean Payton can use. I think that would really work out for him as far as like a good fit. If you want to watch some of the good games on him, like I said, Duke and Clemson, both those are really good game shows. His versatility, his receiving ability. But man, some of the bad games is going to be Louisville and also that Penn State game. Obviously, the playoff game, it was a whole mess. Like I said, we don't really have to talk about how like the college football playoff end up going, but some of those games was very overmatched and it showed. And SMU just could not get anything going, and it definitely did not look. It did not make Brashard Smith look the best. But like I said, I think he's a solid option, but he's only have like a smaller role as like a third down tweener, kind of like running back wide receiver, but still has a role in the NFL. I'm just kind of going through these because this is going to be a very long video. So at 8, at the very end of tier 3, is going to be RJ Harvey from UCF. Like I said, he's a very elusive back. I like him in a kind of scheme of like a Steelers, Commanders, or a 49ers. Something that's going to be not so much with the Steelers, but Commanders and also the 49ers. I think that his vision, his speed is really going to work out well for him. The Steelers, it would be kind of like a copycat with him and Warren, but Warren's going into the last year of his deal. So if you think about moving on from Warren, RJ Harvey could take up that mantle, I think. He's a little bit smaller, just like Jalen Warren is, and he could potentially, be that guy that's complemented by um, a big old bruiser running back. Like I said, that was the dynamic that you had Warren and you had Najee Harris. Now you got Warren. I think Steelers are going to go more of a bigger running back, but if they want to do something more like dynamic, having both RJ Harvey and Warren would be absolutely amazing. But RJ Harvey, like I said, really good running back. He had really good games against TCU and Iowa State. But some of his bad games are like Cincinnati and Florida. Now, obviously, Florida like has a really, really good run stuffing interior. So, like I said, like very hard for to kind of run against. I'll eventually talk about some of them later on in the defense rankings. Like I said, RJ Harvey, I think it. Like I said, for anything really in anything, it really depends on where they end up going, the kind of role they have. But I think he has a really good upside. That's my only thing. The only thing is he's a little bit older. The other two running backs are going to be 22-ish around like the time that the NFL season starts. But RJ Harvey is already 24. So like I don't know how much more potential he has, but I think in the right scheme, there's a chance that he can be able to find himself a role, and I think he can do well enough in it on that rookie contract, and they could just I want to say dump him off, but like by that time he's going to be 28. They're probably not going to re-sign him. So now moving on to tier 2. There are a lot of tier 2 running backs in this draft class. Now, are all of them going to be drafted around second round, like middle second round pick up? Probably not. Like I said, it's like I would think some of the running backs are going to start be falling down because people think they can probably get some later. But overall, I think all of these should be drafted in the second round because I think all of them could be starters in the NFL coming out or having a starting role, whether that be starting power back or whatever that might be for a certain scheme. Starting off is going to be Dylan Sampson. Now, Dylan Sampson, like I said, I kind of want to put him above, but he is just a one-year producer. So I kind of want to see, like, what more I could possibly get out of him to make sure it's not just like a 1-year wonder kind of ordeal. Same as I think kind of happened so for some of these other running backs too. But Dylan Sampson for Tennessee, like I said, very, very elusive back. I mean, has really great speed as well. Breakaway speed that you could obviously see is a very unfortunate against the Ohio State game that he gets early injury in the first quarter. Obviously, that just kind of like threw everything out of the way. If you watched Tennessee that year, it was ran through Dylan Sampson. Now, everything that's going on with Nico, hopefully he finds wherever he wants to go, and Tennessee is moving on with that way. But if you looked at the game last year, it was on Dylan Sampson because they were a run for first team. Now, Dylan Sampson, I think as far as fits, he would be really good in the Bills. Like as far as the whole kind of James Cook scenario where they're talking about maybe he gets a contract, but they're looking at we're not even talking about contracts right now. There's a possibility that he leaves, and even though I like Ray Davis, I would like a Dylan Sampson and a Ray Davis kind of pairing. Now, do I think that the Bills go running back in this draft class? Probably not, because they might just look into just wait until next year. But as far as getting ahead of the problem as well as adding a different dynamic to their team, I think that'd be great for them as well. Dylan Sampson, his good games, Florida and Bama, both of those games, they depended on him. He was that guy, and that's the reason why. You look at the tape, you look at you might watch highlights, but if you look at the tape, it is on Dylan Sampson to be that guy, and he was. However, when he's hurt against Ohio State, or when they're going against really good run defensive teams, it was abysmal. Georgia was not a good game. Oklahoma was not a good game either. Oklahoma had a very interesting year last year. Very up and down. Let's see what they're going to do next year. But yeah, for Dylan Sampson, like I said, sorry, I talked about the Bills. I didn't finish up. Bills a good spot. Saints to be able to replace Alvin Kamara. Tennessee with Tennessee running back. I mean, there's that too. But I think as far as his skill set would fit perfectly with what Alvin Kamara, still is, but he's not necessarily has totally lost a step, but he's about to turn 30, or he is 30, and he's about to take a step back. So getting ahead of the problem, Saints, you need all the help that you can possibly get. Like I said, he'll be able to replace Alvin Kamara, who is not going to be someone you take up at 9, because there's some people who are saying they should take Jeanty. I wouldn't do that. Also, Pats. I think him as being more of the speed kind of running back to Ramondre Stevenson. I think that'd be a pretty good dynamic as well. You could probably have him more of in a third down role, even though he's not just strictly a receiving back. I think having him and Ramondre Stevenson would be a really good complement to each other as far as thinking of what has previously you've had in the past with Mike Vrabel kind of run offenses, is that they run the ball. Having a two-headed monster would absolutely help that out so much. But Dylan Sampson, got to look out for. Obviously, he's a little bit lower on my pick because he's a one-year wonder, but I think he has potential to be the next guy. But I think he's going to be probably middle second-round pick and might even fall a little bit later. Next one up is going to be Cam Skattebo. Cam Skattebo, who's going to turn 23 at the start of this upcoming season. Like I said, if you watched Arizona State, and the only reason why I found out about him before the college football playoff was because one night, I think it was either week 2 or week 3, for some odd reason, Mississippi State was playing Arizona State. And I'm like, well, there's a game on, I might as well watch it. And that's where I started to realize, I was like, okay, this guy is actually pretty good. One of his good games is against Mississippi State. And then, you keep on hearing, as the season progresses, you're hearing, his comment about, how he should be considered the best running back in the country. I love the confidence, his comparison with him and Jeanty. And then the Texas game, that's where it put it on the map of just, him at the absolute gasp, but giving everything that he has. I think he won over a lot of people with that game because of the fact they saw, he's leaving everything on the field. And a lot of teams are going to want that. But like I said, he's a little bit on the older side, but he is just like a legit reminds me of like a Doug Martin kind of thing. As a Panthers fan, watching Doug Martin all the time on the Buccaneers, this big old muscle hamster, just like you can't get him down on the first go. Like I said, like he has great vision. He's like really 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 stocky built. He doesn't have the breakaway speed, but he has really good hands as well. Like I said, that's the reason why I put him above Dylan Sampson is because I feel like, as a power back, I know more than likely with a power back with really good vision, you're going to be able to find a role in the NFL. But yeah, so like he would be a really good fit for the Cardinals as far as like someone to replace James Conner. James Conner to get up there in age as well. The Broncos have been looking at him as well. I mean, him and Audrey Estime kind of fit the same exact role, but I mean, I could see if they're going to be focusing on like heavy running game, having both those running backs doesn't hurt. But I did see like that the Broncos actually gave him a visit, and also the Browns. I mean, you're thinking about someone who they desperately need a running back, obviously because Nick Chubb, like after his injury, he might not be back to wherever he was beforehand. I don't even know if they were signing him yet again. I don't think they have. I think he's still technically a free agent. Ford doesn't really impress me all that much. They still need a powerful run game, especially with whatever's going to happen at quarterback. So I would like to see Cam Skattebo go to the Browns. Obviously, there'll be comparison to him and Peyton Hillis. That's probably what's going to happen. But I think he'd be really good at running back in the NFL as long as he finds himself a role of strictly, okay, I am a power run game. I have good vision, and then every now and then you can use me as like a someone in like a screen game, that kind of action. I think he doesn't have great routes, but he does have good hands. Now moving on to the mid tier of tier 2. Like these are people that I can think are probably going to go a little bit higher in the second round. Probably around like pick 40, 45, somewhere around there. Starting off, one of two of the Ohio State running backs, TreVeyon Henderson. Really, really great speed on him. I mean, just like absolutely breakaway speed, really elusive. However, I don't know if he just doesn't have the power. Like that's the one thing that I'm really concerned about is just like his power comparative, and that's the reason why I put his counterpart ahead of him. But as far as like a running back, just like I said with RJ Harvey, kind of like in that sense of an elusive running back that's kind of similar to like a Jalen Warren. One of his fits could be like replacing Jalen Warren. That's like what I said for the Steelers. I think he'd also be good as a running back for the Cowboys. The Cowboys running back room, I'm very interested in why they did what they did. Maybe because they didn't want to reach on a running back, which is fine. But this is a really good running back class. I don't know why you wouldn't take one. But the Cowboys, they got Javonte Williams, who after his injury hasn't been the same since, like his elusiveness, and also got Miles Sanders. But they don't have that breakaway speed that like TreVeyon Henderson could have, and he could be in that role of his first year, be more of like a third down running back, similar to what like a Tony Pollard was-esque thing. But I don't think he's going to be as good as Tony Pollard is now or was before. But in that same kind of role. Like I said, I think he could work on in the Cowboys. And then if you want the same as that kind of dynamic as far as what you have with Chase Brown, I think it'd be good to go to the Bengals. Obviously, they signed Zach Moss, who started for them, more of a power back, and then kind of like getting Chase Brown into the scheme because he had a very big fumbling problem going into college. I was very high on him coming out, and he ended up hitting in the second year. A lot of fantasy owners love him to death. But I think TreVeyon Henderson could be a guy that could be like, spelling Chase Brown. If they want to strictly have that as their running back, as that kind of mold, basically he could be that same as that guy. So you take Chase Brown out, you put TreVeyon Henderson in, you got the same as that kind of type of running back that I think that could work out for the Bengals if they want to go in that direction. But I think that is a little bit high for the Bengals. More than likely they're going to go in a different direction and make sure they can shore up both offensive line and defensive line. But it could still work out if they take him there. Some of the good games. Sorry, I forgot. I already have up there about Cam Skattebo's good game, bad game. I forgot to mention that. Sorry about that. But TreVeyon Henderson, his good game. Purdue and Tennessee. Obviously, Tennessee, Ohio State just blew them out of the water. But Purdue had a pretty good game as well. And then the bad game, which is very, very similar to what we'll talk about with Quinshon Judkins, but Michigan. It was bad for everybody. Like literally, like when I talked about Will Howard last episode, Michigan was just an absolutely awful game for offense in general, but especially for Ohio State's offense. And then also Nebraska. Nebraska was a pretty bad game for TreVeyon Henderson, where like he just couldn't get anything going. And it's one of those things where because he's never been, to my knowledge, he's never been the for sure number one. He's always kind of been splitting carries with other people, or he was supposed to be the number one guy, but then he ended up getting injured in the season. So, like, that's been my other concern. Reason why I pushed him back is because we haven't seen him be the feature back. Now, like I said, I might be wrong. I might be misremembering something, but I'm pretty sure that was the case. I think that he has potential, and like I said, in that kind of role of being an elusive, maybe third down running back for some people, but he's not just a receiving option as like a Brashard Smith or whatnot. But I really like his potential as being a breakaway speed kind of guy, and someone who could probably do some kick returns as well, especially with the new kickoff rules in the NFL. Um, and then the last of the mid tier, like I said before, other Ohio State running back, Quinshon Judkins. Was at Ole Miss the previous couple of years, then comes to Ohio State, wins himself a national championship, which good on him, from Pike Road, Alabama boy. Like I said, he is more like a power back comparatively to TreVeyon Henderson, but he also has really really good speed as well. He doesn't have as much wiggle room as you kind of want. Like I said, he's definitely not as elusive as TreVeyon Henderson obviously is. But if you want someone who is the same as that kind of mold as who I'll eventually talk about, Kaleb Johnson, but a little bit later on in the draft, Quinshon Judkins could definitely hit that. His fits are obviously, like I want to say, like the Broncos. They seem to kind of really like him, so they didn't take a running back in the first round. I could obviously see them trying to get him in the second round. Cowboys, as far as like a long-term option, because like I said, the running back room is just really, really weird right now. I don't know what their plan is, but they need to find a future for their running back room, and that could be Quinshon Judkins. That can just probably push somebody to a different role they were not hoping for when they signed to the Cowboys, because he's more talented. And the last one too is also the Texans. Like obviously they have Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's also getting up there in age, and also they don't really have that kind of depth. So if they want somebody that's going to eventually take over for Joe Mixon and already have him be in a sort of role, start learning the new offense because a new offensive coordinator coming in as well, I think they could work out. I think they could work out for Quinshon Judkins. Like I said, loved him at Ole Miss. Wish he would have come to Auburn, but then because he didn't go to Auburn, we got Jarquez Hunter. So it's a trade-off. Yeah, I could talk for days about Auburn and all the mistakes we might have made for recruiting, especially under the Harsin years, but that's getting way off track. But his good games include Marshall and Notre Dame. The championship game, he had a really good game in that game. Goodness gracious. But he did not have a really good game in the Michigan game. The Michigan game was absolutely abysmal. Like I said, as was for TreVeyon Henderson, and then also the first Oregon game, if I remember correctly, he did not have. I think he. If I'm trying to remember something, I just had to the same thing I had to do before. I'm just like kind of jotting it down. If I remember correctly, there were certain games. It was like 2.1 yards per carry. It was like just could not get anything going. But I think that Quinshon Judkins has a role in the NFL, just depending on where he ends up going. Like I said, more of a speed, more of a power that has some speed, like breakaway speed, but just that doesn't have that wiggle, unfortunately. Now going to like the high tier one, this is a running back that I can think that could go into the first round, the back half of this, like 25 down, but more than likely will be that very beginning of day two, Someone might trade up for him, but he's not making past 40. I feel pretty confident he's not making past 40, and that's Kaleb Johnson. Kaleb Johnson from Iowa, like really, really big dude, but has some great vision and great breakaway speed as well. I mean, now obviously some of the knock that you kind of watch is it strictly that he's doing really, really well against bad Big Ten defenses, like his good games, or against Minnesota. He also had a pretty good game against Iowa State. Iowa State was pretty good this year, but like there were a lot of games that you kind of choose from where he had good games, but they were mainly against like Big Ten defenses that weren't necessarily the best. And the bad games that he had was against UCLA and Nebraska. Like he's another one that had a really bad game against Nebraska. But I think overall he's got really great speed, really great vision, really great size. That in these kind of schemes, like I said, Steelers, as far as like this is the kind of power back that I want to have him with Warren. Like I said, he could potentially be if like the Steelers traded back or they want to take him in the first round. I would be surprised, but that would be something that like would make sense. Like, okay, he's basically replacing what Najee Harris was as far as being a power back that had some speed to him, complementing with Jaylen Warren. Same as the thing with Quinshon Judkins, Cowboys. He'd also be a really good fit for them as well. Something that they don't really have. Technically, like I said, both running backs on their roster are not power backs. They're more so like elusive backs esque, like what they used to be. And then also the Broncos for Kaleb Johnson. Like I said, Kaleb Johnson, in the same exact way that I kind of talked about with, in the same way with Cam Skattebo, both of them are power backs. You already have Audric Estime on the roster, but like I think in the case of Kaleb Johnson, he has way more breakaway speed than Audric Estime has, and you're looking for that kind of home run threat that is going to threaten the defense when really and truly the Broncos offense is the only thing that's really going to be holding the back. That defense should be good. It was good last year. It should continue to be good as long as no injuries happen. It should continue to be good. If you can give like Bo Nix more weapons on on the offense, someone like a Kaleb Johnson, I think this is going to be a really, really good offense. However, there is one more running back that I think would do that. I would honestly bet that the Broncos are going to try to get in the first round, and that's where we're moving to tier 1. I think it's pretty obvious who's 1 and 2 in this scenario, but I want to also say I think number 2, Omarion Hampton, is not getting nearly enough the hype that he probably should. Like, to me, I have him only slightly less better than Ashton Jeanty. Like I said, technically they're different tiers, but I have him on the higher of a mid tier for I think he has possibility of if Jeanty is taken at 6. If I'm the Bears, I would not be upset with settling for Omarion Hampton. Like Omarion Hampton from North Carolina is a absolute dog. Like really great speed, really great vision. And honestly, he was the main thing in North Carolina because they had nothing else. Same thing for Kaleb Johnson being on Iowa, but North Carolina's quarterback was not good at all. Like it just not good. And it's been like a downward spiral since like you had Sam Darnold, you had a good quarterback when you had a Drake May there, but you didn't really have the surrounding cast because most of them had already left. And then now it's just like Omarion Hampton, that's it. And he had some really, really good games. He had Florida State was a really good game against a really good couple of defense players that I'll be talking about when we go into those defensive breakdowns. And then also Wake Forest, he had a really good game as well. Some of the bad games, unfortunately, is going to be Boston College, and also I believe it's going to be Duke was the other one too. Like I said, I think that in the right scheme, Omarion Hampton is going to be a star. I feel pretty confident about that. And like I just said before, some of his fits, if his draft is really depending on where Ashton Jeanty goes. Jeanty's going to go first, more than likely. But depending on where Jeanty goes, his his draft position is going to go, okay, it could either go Bears, it could go Cowboys, or it could go Steelers. Like I said, I would love for him to go to the Broncos. Love for that to happen because that would be absolutely amazing for Bo Nix. That would be able to give Sean Payton his receiving back because Omarion Hampton also has some hands on him too. But that would be amazing. But I think more than likely he's going to go a little bit earlier unless, like, the Steelers are technically behind the Broncos, so the Broncos will take him before the Steelers. But still, I think he's a really great running back. If I'm being honest, there's a chance he might even be better than Ashton Jeanty because if Jeanty goes to the Raiders, even though that has been mocked so much, I hope it's not the case because I want Jeanty to go to a good run team, especially with a good offensive line. And the Raiders don't really have that right now. They have some good elements of the offensive line. They just don't have the good total offensive line. But like I said, Omarion Hampton, really great running back, very elusive, and I think he's going to be an absolute star. One of the tier 1 running backs. And then number 1 is going to be Ashton Jeanty. I mean, it was absolutely outstanding this past year. I mean, literally, Boise State ran through him. In the very beginning of the year, they go against Oregon, and he actually does pretty decent against Oregon, where they're like, oh, okay, well then it's not just against Mountain West opponents. It's actually, he actually did pretty good against a pretty good team. A lot of people are saying, well, it's early in the year, so it doesn't count. That's kind of chalk. I don't like when people say that. Like, just because something happened at the very beginning means that it doesn't matter at all. I think that shouldn't matter. Like I said, it can be part of a talking point, but it shouldn't be the whole entire talking point that, it just doesn't matter. It can be a part of just like, well, Boise State's trying to figure themselves out. Same thing for Oregon. Both of them are trying to figure themselves out, but it's not saying that it just doesn't matter at all. But I digress. Ashton Jeanty fits. He would fit for the Raiders. Obviously, Pete Carroll has done a really good job when he's had a really good running game. Everyone's been pointing at the fact of obviously beast mode. Obviously, like when they had beast mode, like it was like amazing. They also had Chris Carson. Chris Carson from Oklahoma State. Unfortunately, he has his injuries, but he was still good in that system too. And he was not a first round pick. He was, I think, I can't even remember what round he was, but he was also a really good running back for a short little while that fit in that run scheme. And I think, especially with someone like a Chip Kelly, who's going to be the offensive coordinator for Ohio State, him having Jeanty would be pretty stinking good. But the Raiders could also decide to not go running back in the first round and get one of the Ohio State running backs in the second round. But I think that you have amazing contact balance. You got really good speed. You got really good vision, and you got pretty good hands. There's not really much you could possibly want more from Ashton Jeanty. Is he like easy Bijan Robinson level? No, he's not as good as Bijan was coming out, but he's pretty daggum close. He's pretty close. But I really like Ashton Jeanty as far as being a for sure top 10 pick. I think that it's going to be interesting to see 5 years from now when his rookie contract is up, how the running back class, how the running back class in general, but also how the running back contract is going to be, because I believe him and also Bijan for that matter too are going to be the next level of, okay, we have a lot of these really good older running backs that are now getting paid. What is going to happen coming into where we've had a lot of good young running backs coming in? Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, what we think Ashton Jeanty is going to be. Like I said, a lot of these good young running backs that are eventually going to be paid. So it's very like that. I'm very interested to see how that's going to go in the NFL. But Ashton Jeanty had an absolutely outstanding year. Love to see what he's going to do in the NFL and really this whole entire running back class. Now, obviously, like I said, there's a lot of running backs that I didn't cover because 10 is only 10, and there's like I think there's like closer to 25-esque running backs that are probably going to be drafted. I can't watch that much. I literally I have no time. But If there's anyone that I didn't talk about that you want to ask me about, obviously I can either mention them when we're talking about them in the sleeper, the offensive sleeper picks, or like I might not have been able to watch them. So unfortunately, I can just want to hear what maybe you had thought about. So that's going to be the running back ranking. Obviously, next is going to be wide receiver. That should be coming out tomorrow. If you have any draft questions, please post them in the comments below. I'm always eager to see what people are thinking about either their team or anything like that. If you want to see what I feel about your team, their draft needs, you can go over to Gridiron Gurus on YouTube. Both Luke and I talk about each team's draft needs, and we'll finish up we should be finishing up the AFC pretty soon. We've already done the NFC, should be finishing up AFC pretty soon. And then we'll have a 2-round mock draft as well. Obviously, we'll be streaming the draft too, so try to get these prospect rankings out pretty soon. But yeah, I'm going to be pumping these out every single day. So look forward to the new video, and thank you so much for watching. As always, come back to the next one, be a part of this community, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.